Ladies and gentlemen, the secret to making her chase you isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about mastering yourself, becoming unshakable, and focusing on what truly matters: yourself. Self-mastery is the foundation of true confidence, independence, and success in all areas of life, including relationships. When it comes to making someone chase you after a period of no contact, the key is not in seeking their validation, but in developing a deep sense of self-worth that does not rely on external approval. People are naturally drawn to those who exude inner strength, self-sufficiency, and purpose. When you shift your focus away from seeking validation from others and instead invest in becoming the best version of yourself, you create an aura of mystery and attractiveness that cannot be ignored. The mistake most people make after no contact is that they constantly wonder if the other person is thinking about them, missing them, or noticing their absence. This mindset keeps them trapped in a cycle of external validation, where their happiness and self-esteem are tied to another person's actions or attention. The truth is, the more you chase validation from someone, the more power you give them over your emotions. You become reactive, anxious, and ultimately unattractive. People can sense when you are desperate for their attention, and it makes them value you less. But when you detach from their validation and focus inward, the dynamic shifts completely. True self-mastery begins with understanding that your value is not determined by anyone else. It is not measured by who likes you, who texts you back, or who chooses to be in your life. Your worth is inherent, and the moment you realize this, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster that comes from external validation. Instead of waiting for someone to recognize your value, you cultivate a mindset that radiates confidence and self-respect. This shift in mindset is powerful because it makes you immune to the ups and downs of external circumstances. When you prioritize self-mastery, you develop an internal sense of security that allows you to remain calm and composed regardless of what happens outside of you. This doesn't mean shutting off emotions or pretending not to care. Rather, it means developing such a strong sense of self that your happiness is not dependent on anyone else's actions or approval. This kind of confidence is magnetic. When you stop chasing and start focusing on your growth, you naturally become more attractive. One of the best ways to cultivate self-mastery is through discipline and self-improvement. Instead of spending time obsessing over someone else's opinion of you, invest that energy into building yourself up. Focus on physical fitness, mental resilience, emotional intelligence, and personal goals. When you develop yourself in these areas, you automatically elevate your presence. People respect those who respect themselves. When they see you thriving without their validation, it triggers curiosity. They begin to wonder why you are so unbothered, why you are not chasing them, and why you seem so fulfilled on your own. Another crucial aspect of self-mastery is controlling your emotions. When you allow yourself to be overly reactive to someone's actions, you give them control over you. If they ignore you and you become anxious, they have power over your emotions. If they text you and you suddenly feel happy, it means your emotional state is dictated by their attention. But when you master yourself, you remain steady regardless of whether they engage with you or not. This emotional stability is incredibly attractive because it signals that you are in control of your own life. Additionally, self-mastery involves setting boundaries and maintaining high standards for yourself. When you no longer seek external validation, you stop tolerating behavior that does not align with your self-respect. You no longer settle for breadcrumbs of attention or chase after people who do not prioritize you. Instead, you become selective about who you allow into your life. This selectiveness creates an air of exclusivity, which naturally makes people want to be around you. When someone realizes that your attention is not easily given, they begin to value it more. It is also important to develop a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. People who seek validation often operate from a place of scarcity. They believe they need a specific person's attention to feel complete. But when you embody self-mastery, you recognize that there are countless opportunities, experiences, and people who can enrich your life. You do not cling to one person's validation because you understand that your happiness is not dependent on them. This mindset of abundance creates an effortless confidence that is deeply attractive. Ultimately, the journey to self-mastery is about becoming so fulfilled, self-sufficient, and purpose-driven that external validation becomes irrelevant. When you reach this state, you no longer need to chase anyone. Instead, people will be drawn to you naturally because of the energy you radiate. You become a person of value, someone who is intriguing, desirable, and respected. And when the person you once sought validation from realizes that you no longer need their approval, that is when the power dynamic shifts. That is when they begin to chase you. Emotions are powerful forces that can dictate our actions, influence our relationships, and shape our overall well-being. However, those who lack control over their emotions often find themselves at the mercy of external circumstances, reacting impulsively to every situation rather than responding with intention. When it comes to relationships, especially after a period of no contact, emotional control becomes even more crucial. If you allow your emotions to dictate your behavior, you become predictable, easily manipulated, and ultimately unattractive. But if you learn to control your emotions, you take control of the entire situation, creating a sense of mystery, strength, and independence that naturally draws others toward you. One of the biggest mistakes people make after a breakup or a period of separation is letting their emotions drive their decisions. They feel anxious, so they reach out. They feel rejected, so they overcompensate by seeking attention. They feel lonely, so they make desperate attempts to reconnect. All of these actions stem from emotions that are unchecked and uncontrolled. The problem with this is that it places power in the hands of someone else. When another person can influence how you feel and consequently how you act, you lose control over the situation. Your emotional instability makes you predictable, and predictability is not attractive. People are drawn to those who are centered, composed, and unaffected by external forces. When you learn to control your emotions, you develop the ability to pause before reacting. This pause is powerful. It allows you to assess the situation rationally rather than emotionally. Instead of texting in a moment of weakness, you take a step back and ask yourself whether it serves your best interest. Instead of responding to rejection with desperation, you remain composed, understanding that your worth is not determined by another person's actions. Emotional control gives you the ability to navigate situations with clarity rather than clouded judgment. This level of self-possession is rare and incredibly attractive. Emotional control also creates an aura of strength and mystery. When someone expects you to react a certain way and you don't, it catches them off guard. If they expect you to beg for attention and you remain indifferent, they begin to wonder why. If they expect you to lash out in anger and you stay calm, it signals that you operate on a different level. This unpredictability makes you intriguing. People are naturally drawn to those they cannot easily read or manipulate. When you control your emotions, you shift the power dynamic in your favor, because the other person begins to wonder what is going on in your mind. Additionally, controlling your emotions allows you to make decisions from a place of strength rather than weakness. When emotions run high, people often make impulsive choices that they later regret. They send long emotional messages, try to force closure, or overanalyze every interaction. These behaviors stem from a lack of emotional regulation and only serve to push the other person further away. But when you learn to manage your emotions, you make calculated decisions that serve your best interests. You understand that giving in to emotional impulses only weakens your position, while maintaining composure strengthens it. Self-respect is another important aspect of emotional control. When you allow emotions like fear, sadness, or anger to dictate your actions, you often compromise your self-respect in the process. You might beg for attention, tolerate disrespect, or engage in self-sabotaging behaviors just to regain a sense of connection. But when you master your emotions, you prioritize your dignity above temporary emotional relief. You recognize that no external situation is worth sacrificing your self-worth. This unwavering sense of self-respect commands respect from others as well. People value what they cannot easily obtain, and when you refuse to be controlled by emotions, you become someone of higher value. Emotional control also affects how others perceive you. Those who are emotionally reactive are often seen as unstable, insecure, or weak. On the other hand, those who remain composed under pressure are viewed as strong, confident, and self-assured. When someone sees that you are not easily shaken by their absence, indifference, or even rejection, it forces them to reconsider their perception of you. They begin to question whether they underestimated your strength, and this shift in perception often leads them to reevaluate their feelings. Another advantage of emotional control is that it allows you to shift focus away from external validation and toward internal fulfillment. Many people become emotionally overwhelmed because they place too much importance on someone else's actions or opinions. They let another person's behavior dictate their mood, their self-esteem, and their sense of security. This dependence on external validation creates emotional instability. But when you take control of your emotions, you detach from external factors and cultivate a sense of fulfillment within yourself. You understand that your happiness is not dependent on whether someone texts you back, acknowledges you, or expresses interest. This level of emotional independence makes you incredibly powerful because it means no one else can dictate your state of mind. In addition to making you more attractive, emotional control also leads to better decision-making in every area of life. Whether in relationships, career, or personal development, those who control their emotions are able to think strategically rather than impulsively. They do not let temporary feelings lead them into situations that do not serve them. Instead, they assess situations logically, ensuring that every action they take aligns with their long-term goals. This level of discipline and foresight leads to success in every aspect of life. Mastering emotional control requires self-awareness and discipline. It involves recognizing your triggers, developing coping strategies, and practicing patience in moments of heightened emotion. It requires a shift in mindset, where you see emotions as something to be managed rather than something that manages you. When you develop this level of self-mastery, you not only take control of your personal relationships, but also gain a significant advantage in life as a whole. People respect those who are in control of themselves, and when you learn to regulate your emotions, you naturally become someone who commands attention, respect, and admiration. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When something is rare, it is perceived as more valuable. This principle applies to almost every aspect of life, from luxury goods to high-status individuals to relationships. People want what they cannot easily have. They desire what is not readily available. This is why exclusivity is such a powerful attraction tool, and why those who understand the value of scarcity naturally command more respect, admiration, and attention from others. In relationships, especially after a period of no contact, scarcity plays an even more crucial role. Many people make the mistake of overextending themselves, making themselves too available, or desperately seeking attention in an attempt to regain connection. But this approach often backfires because it signals low value. When you are always accessible, when you constantly seek validation, and when you make yourself too easy to reach, the other person begins to take you for granted. They do not see you as someone of high value because value is directly linked to availability. If something is abundant, it loses its appeal. Consider how people react to things that are hard to obtain. When a product is limited edition, people are willing to pay more for it. When a high-status individual is selective about who they spend time with, people admire and respect them. When someone has standards and boundaries that are not easily compromised, they are seen as someone of worth. This is the power of scarcity. The less available you are, the more people value your presence. When applied correctly in relationships, this principle can shift the entire dynamic in your favor. One of the fundamental mistakes people make after a breakup or period of separation is immediately trying to regain connection. They reach out, check in, or try to force interactions, believing that constant communication will bring back the connection. But this approach has the opposite effect. It makes you appear desperate, predictable, and easily replaceable. The other person feels no urgency to reconnect because they know that whenever they want, you will be there. They do not have to work for your attention, and as a result, they do not value it. However, when you create scarcity, when you remove yourself, focus on your own life, and stop being readily available, you become more desirable. Scarcity creates curiosity. When you suddenly stop chasing, when you stop giving away your attention freely, the other person starts to wonder why. They question what changed. They begin to feel your absence in a way that they never did before. This absence creates a void, and that void makes them realize what they once had. When you are always present, they never had the chance to miss you. But when you remove yourself, they are forced to reflect on your value. People do not appreciate what they can have at any time. They appreciate what they have to earn. This is why those who carry themselves with self-respect, standards, and a sense of exclusivity naturally command more admiration. When you stop seeking approval, when you stop making yourself available at every opportunity, you shift the power dynamic. The other person begins to recognize that your time, energy, and presence are not things they can take for granted. They must now work for them. And when someone has to work for something, they value it far more. Creating scarcity does not mean playing mind games or intentionally manipulating someone. It is not about pretending to be busy or ignoring someone just to trigger a reaction. True scarcity is about genuinely focusing on your own life, goals, and self-improvement to the point where you do not need external validation. It is about prioritizing yourself so much that your time becomes valuable, not because you are trying to prove something, but because you genuinely have more important things to focus on. When you truly embody this mindset, people naturally gravitate toward you because confidence, self-respect, and independence are deeply attractive qualities. When you create scarcity, you become a challenge, and people value challenges. If something is too easy, it loses its appeal. This is why people admire those who are selective in their relationships, those who set high standards, and those who do not settle for less than what they deserve. When you stop being readily available, you communicate that you are a person of value. You are not someone who waits around for others to choose you. You are someone who chooses where to invest your time and energy. This shift in mindset makes all the difference. Another key aspect of scarcity is maintaining an air of mystery. When you are always updating people on your life, when you constantly seek attention, or when you overshare, you remove the element of intrigue. But when you create space, when you live your life without feeling the need to prove anything, people become curious. They want to know what you are up to. They start to wonder about you. This curiosity fuels attraction. When people have to guess what is going on with you, when they are left wondering about your next move, they naturally become more drawn to you. Scarcity also allows you to filter out those who are not genuinely interested in you. When you stop chasing, those who are only there for convenience will disappear. But those who truly value you will take notice. They will recognize your worth and begin to make an effort to reconnect. This is why creating scarcity is not about manipulation. It is about allowing the right people to come to you, while removing those who are only there because of easy access. Ultimately, the key to making someone chase you after no contact is not in chasing them back. It is in stepping back, reclaiming your value, and making it clear through your actions, not words, that you are not easily available. When you embody this mindset, you naturally become more attractive, not only to the person in question, but to everyone around you. Scarcity creates value, and when you make yourself a person of value, people will always be drawn to you. Many people lose themselves in relationships, especially when emotions are deeply involved. They make the mistake of prioritizing another person over their own goals, dreams, and ambitions. This imbalance not only diminishes their sense of self, but also makes them less attractive in the eyes of the very person they are trying to keep. The key to regaining control after no contact is not to focus on her, but to shift that focus entirely onto your own purpose. When you do this, everything else, including attraction, respect, and even potential reconciliation, falls into place naturally. One of the most attractive qualities a person can have is purpose. A strong sense of direction, a clear vision, and an unwavering dedication to something greater than any single relationship set you apart. People are naturally drawn to those who are passionate and committed to their own mission. When you focus on your purpose, you exude a kind of energy that is magnetic. You become someone of substance, someone who is not easily swayed by external circumstances, and that is what makes you desirable. When a person becomes the center of your world, you subconsciously communicate neediness. You may not say it outright, but your actions reveal that your happiness, self-worth, and motivation depend on their presence. This is a dangerous position to be in, because it gives them the power to dictate your emotional state. If they pull away, you feel lost. If they give you attention, you feel validated. But when you shift your focus to your purpose, you reclaim that power. You are no longer dependent on someone else's actions for your sense of fulfillment, because your purpose gives you a deep and lasting source of motivation. Purpose provides direction. When you are fully engaged in your goals, whether they are career-related, fitness-oriented, or personal development-driven. You have no time to dwell on whether she is thinking about you, missing you, or considering reaching out. You are too busy building yourself. This shift in energy is noticeable. When you are consumed by your purpose, you stop chasing. You stop overanalyzing texts, you stop waiting for validation, and you stop making decisions based on another person's actions. Instead, you operate from a place of confidence, independence, and self-respect. When someone sees that you are deeply committed to something greater than them, they begin to view you differently. They start to wonder why you are no longer chasing, why you seem so unaffected, and why your energy has shifted. This curiosity naturally draws them in. The more you focus on yourself and your ambitions, the more they feel your absence, not because you are intentionally ignoring them, but because your life is full without them. This kind of self-sufficiency is rare, and people are drawn to those who do not rely on external validation to feel complete. Focusing on your purpose also strengthens your mindset. When you immerse yourself in self-improvement, you develop discipline, resilience, and confidence. These qualities make you stand out. While others waste time dwelling on the past or obsessing over what they cannot control, you are taking action, pushing forward, and evolving into a better version of yourself. This mindset shift is powerful because it not only helps you move on from the emotional weight of no contact, but it also makes you a more desirable person overall. Another crucial aspect of prioritizing your purpose is that it prevents you from making impulsive decisions. When you are driven by emotions alone, you are more likely to act out of desperation, whether that means sending a text you later regret, seeking closure that only reopens wounds, or trying to rekindle something prematurely. But when you are focused on a bigger mission, you think long-term. You do not let temporary emotions dictate your actions, because your purpose is greater than any single relationship. You learn to embrace patience, trust the process, and allow things to unfold naturally. The irony of shifting your focus to your purpose is that it often increases attraction. People admire those who are committed, passionate, and disciplined. When she sees that you are thriving without her, that you are not dwelling on the past, and that you are continuously improving, it forces her to reevaluate her perception of you. She begins to realize that you are not someone who waits around, you are someone who is moving forward, with or without her. This realization can be a powerful trigger that makes her see you in a new light. However, the real benefit of focusing on your purpose is not in whether she comes back or not. The true power lies in the fact that you become someone who is fulfilled, independent, and self-driven regardless of external circumstance. You no longer need anyone to complete you because your purpose provides all the fulfillment you need. When you embody this mindset, you become unstoppable. You do not chase people, you attract them. You do not seek validation, you create value. And when you operate at this level, the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. Not because you need them, but because your energy, ambition, and confidence make you impossible to ignore. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. It signals self-assurance, strength, and an unwavering belief in oneself. However, there is a fine line between confidence and arrogance. While confidence draws people in, arrogance pushes them away. True confidence is rooted in self-awareness, humility, and inner security, while arrogance is often a mask for insecurity and a need for validation. Striking the right balance between confidence and humility is what sets high-value individuals apart. It allows them to command respect without demanding it, to inspire admiration without seeking approval, and to attract others naturally without feeling the need to prove themselves. At its core, confidence comes from self-mastery. It is the result of knowing who you are, understanding your strengths, and being comfortable with your flaws. When you are genuinely confident, you do not need to overcompensate or seek validation from others. You do not feel the need to constantly prove your worth because you already recognize it within yourself. This quiet self-assurance is what makes confidence so powerful. It is not about being the loudest person in the room or showing off achievements. It is about carrying yourself in a way that radiates certainty and self-respect. Arrogance, on the other hand, is the opposite of true confidence. It is often a sign of deep-seated insecurity. Those who are arrogant tend to overemphasize their strengths while dismissing or belittling others. They rely on external validation to feel superior, and often try to make others feel small in order to elevate themselves. This kind of behavior does not inspire respect, it repels it. People may tolerate arrogance out of obligation or intimidation, but they do not admire it in the same way they admire genuine confidence. The key difference between confidence and arrogance is humility. True confidence acknowledges both strengths and weaknesses. It is the ability to walk into any situation with a sense of assurance while remaining open to learning, growth, and improvement. Confident individuals do not pretend to know everything, nor do they feel threatened by the success of others. Instead, they embrace challenges, welcome feedback, and use every experience as an opportunity to grow. One of the most attractive aspects of confidence without arrogance is the ability to uplift others. Confident people do not feel the need to tear others down to feel better about themselves. Instead, they inspire those around them, offering encouragement and support without feeling threatened. They do not view success as a competition, but rather as something that is abundant and attainable for everyone. This mindset naturally draws people in because it makes others feel valued and respected. Another defining trait of true confidence is emotional stability. Those who are truly confident do not react impulsively to criticism or rejection. They understand that their worth is not dependent on external opinions or temporary setbacks. They remain composed in difficult situations, handle conflicts with maturity, and do not let their emotions dictate their actions. This level of self-control is a rare and valuable quality that commands deep respect. Confidence without arrogance also involves strong communication skills. A confident person speaks with clarity, conviction, and purpose, but they do not dominate conversations or talk down to others. They listen as much as they speak, valuing different perspectives and engaging in discussions with genuine curiosity rather than a need to be right. This ability to communicate effectively makes them more likable and persuasive, as people appreciate those who listen and respond thoughtfully rather than those who simply try to assert dominance. Another important aspect of confidence is the ability to handle rejection and failure without letting it define you. Arrogant individuals often react defensively to rejection because their self-worth is tied to external validation. They may lash out, blame others, or refuse to acknowledge their mistakes. Confident individuals, on the other hand, view rejection and failure as natural parts of life. They take responsibility for their actions, learn from their mistakes, and move forward without letting setbacks shake their self-belief. This resilience is what makes them truly powerful. True confidence also means setting boundaries and maintaining self-respect. Those who lack confidence often struggle to say no, tolerate disrespect, or seek approval at the expense of their own well-being. Arrogant individuals, in contrast, may set boundaries in a way that is dismissive, aggressive, or condescending. However, a person with genuine confidence knows how to establish boundaries with grace and assertiveness. They do not need to be rude or forceful. They simply communicate their standards clearly and expect others to respect them. One of the most attractive aspects of confidence without arrogance is authenticity. Confident individuals do not feel the need to wear a mask or pretend to be someone they are not. They embrace their true selves, flaws and all, and they are comfortable in their own skin. This authenticity is magnetic because it creates a sense of trust and reliability. People are drawn to those who are real rather than those who try too hard to impress. Ultimately, confidence without arrogance is about balance. It is about believing in yourself without dismissing others. It is about asserting yourself without overpowering those around you. It is about carrying yourself with quiet strength rather than loud superiority. When you cultivate this kind of confidence, you naturally become more respected, admired, and attractive to those around you. You do not need to chase validation or prove your worth. Your presence alone speaks volumes. Detachment from the outcome is one of the most powerful mindsets a person can develop, especially when it comes to relationship success and personal growth. Too often, people become overly invested in a specific result. Whether it is winning someone back, getting a particular job, or achieving a certain level of recognition. This attachment creates anxiety, desperation, and a lack of control, which ultimately pushes away the very thing they are trying to attain. However, when you detach from the outcome, you free yourself from emotional turmoil, regain control over your own actions, and increase the likelihood of success. At its core, detachment does not mean not caring. It does not mean giving up or becoming indifferent. Instead, it means understanding that your self-worth and happiness are not dependent on a specific result. It means putting in effort, taking action, and striving for your goals, but without becoming emotionally consumed by whether or not things unfold exactly as you envisioned. This mindset shift allows you to remain calm, composed, and confident regardless of what happens. One of the main reasons people struggle with detachment is the fear of losing something or someone, the fear of failure, or the fear of uncertainty. This fear creates a strong emotional attachment to a desired outcome, leading to overthinking, anxiety, and impulsive decision-making. When someone is overly attached to a particular result, they often act in ways that are counterproductive. In relationships, for example, this can manifest as neediness, excessive pursuit, or emotional instability. In career or personal ambitions, it can lead to burnout, frustration, and a lack of enjoyment in the process. When you detach from the outcome, you shift your focus from what you cannot control to what you can. You stop obsessing over whether someone will text you back, whether you will get that promotion, or whether things will go exactly as planned. Instead, you focus on the actions you can take and the mindset you can cultivate. This shift not only reduces stress but also makes you more attractive and effective in every area of life. People are drawn to those who are self-assured, composed, and not desperate for external validation. Detachment also enhances decision-making. When you are too emotionally invested in a specific result, your judgment becomes clouded. You may act out of fear, impatience, or insecurity rather than logic and confidence. But when you are detached from the outcome, you can evaluate situations objectively, make strategic decisions, and respond rather than react. This level of clarity is invaluable, whether in relationships, business, or personal development. Another important benefit of detachment is that it allows you to stay present. When you are fixated on a specific future outcome, you are not fully engaged in the present moment. You are constantly analyzing, predicting, or worrying about what will happen next. This robs you of the ability to enjoy the process, appreciate the present, and experience life fully. But when you let go of attachment, you begin to enjoy each moment for what it is, rather than seeing it as merely a step toward a specific destination. Detachment also creates a sense of inner peace. When you no longer tie your happiness to a specific result, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You understand that life is unpredictable, that not everything will go as planned, and that setbacks are a natural part of growth. Instead of resisting these realities, you embrace them. This acceptance brings a deep sense of calm and resilience, allowing you to navigate challenges with confidence rather than anxiety. Ironically, detaching from the outcome often increases the likelihood of success. When you are too desperate for a particular result, you give off an energy of neediness, which can be off-putting to others. But when you are focused on your own growth, your own purpose, and your own well-being without being fixated on a specific result, you become more attractive, more effective, and more likely to achieve what you want. People respect those who are secure in themselves, who do not chase validation, and who do not let external circumstances dictate their worth. Ultimately, detaching from the outcome is about trusting yourself and the process. It is about understanding that while you can control your efforts, you cannot always control the results. That is okay. When you embrace this mindset, you become emotionally free. You stop seeking happiness in external things and start finding it within yourself. This shift in perspective changes everything, allowing you to move through life with confidence, purpose, and an unshakable sense of inner peace. Detaching from the outcome does not mean giving up. It means choosing peace over anxiety, confidence over desperation, and self-respect over neediness. When you focus on what you can control, your actions, mindset, and personal growth, you naturally attract the right people, opportunities, and outcomes into your life. True power lies in knowing that your worth is not dependent on any external result, but in who you are and how you carry yourself. When you master this mindset, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and step into a life of true confidence, purpose, and fulfillment. Let go, trust the process, and watch how everything begins to fall into place.